How do everybody? So I've got a bit of a short news story here that I found. It's to do with Germany, and I've been sort of chronicling the recent slow downfall of Germany. It's quite strange some of the things that have been happening. And I've got quite a few past videos on Germany, and it is quite close to my heart. My mum and dad were both in the army, so I was born over there as a result of that in the city of Munster. And then when I was in the army, I spent nearly 5 years in the city of Paderborn myself. So for me, Germany does hold quite a special place in my heart. And to see what's happened to it in recent years is quite saddening, really, for me personally. And it's stories like this I find quite interesting. And to me, this again, and I've said this before in the past, and I say this to quite a few bits, but this exemplifies to me what colonisation looks like, where you end up with preferential treatment for the groups of the new people, whilst the indigenous peoples get punitive treatment and are expected to abide by a totally separate set of rules and obligations. So let's get into this story and we'll see what we make of it fully. I haven't read it yet, so my initial opinions could be wrong. I don't think I'm going to be, though. So, Germany, train conductors urged not to check tickets of foreigners to keep the peace. German train conductors in the state of Thuringia have been given permission not to check the tickets of foreign passengers after an increase in threatening behaviour from asylum seekers towards staff. I mean, okay, the argument could be made against what I've said there, saying, well, we've got to keep these people safe and make sure that the conductors aren't getting hurt. To which I would respond, no. How about you start prosecuting the people properly who are attacking conductors and make it a safe working environment for tickets to be checked? How about you start having police put on the trains, or making sure that people can't even get to the platform without a ticket in the first place? Maybe they should start doing that instead. This is absolutely unacceptable. And again, that to me is how colonisation happens, by allowing people to continually get away with things because they engage in bad behaviour, which then encourages more bad behaviour and more bad behaviour. And before you know it, you've got separatist movements on your hand and sectarianism. It's absolutely insane as far as I can see. I mean, the short-sighted level of thinking that's going into this, it beggars belief. The fact that they're just allowing this type of bad behaviour to happen, and then they wonder why they're getting these terrorist attacks. Crazy. The Thuringia Allgemeine reported on Sunday that railway staff have been informed to do all they can to de-escalate troublesome travellers, even if that meant effectively giving them a free pass on their commute. I'm sorry, but that's not good enough. You're just going to encourage more bad behaviour, because all that's going to happen now is people from these communities are going to go, hey, Abdul, or hey, Mohammed, or whatever. If you just kick off like mad, they'll just let you ride for free and nobody's going to bother you. That news will spread like wildfire, which is going to encourage even more violent behaviour. This is a self-perpetuating situation. And as I say, the short-sightedness of these cowardly people to enforce these types of punitive rules against what effectively is the indigenous Germans and any other Europeans who may be travelling through Germany, who will be expected to pay, whilst these people who are there, I would imagine a lot of them illegally as well, are going to be able to travel the country for free, simply because they throw the teddies out the pram every time they don't get their own way. It's terrible. And that will bleed out into wider society. That won't stay inside the train. It's not like there's a magic switch inside a person's brain where you differentiate between the different parts of the world. You just get into habits that you carry into all parts of your life. And that is the unfortunate reality of it. Yeah, you may be physically aware that you're no longer in a train, but you don't just get out of the bad behaviour habits just because you've stepped off the train if you've got the bad habits on there. It will permeate into wider society. And this is just going to further upset the Germans. And then people are wondering why there's the rise of the far right happening in places like Germany. It's crap like this. It's maddening. It's absolutely maddening, because this could be really, really easily solved by just being firmer on these lawbreakers. That's all it takes. Just enforce the rules. It's that simple. The German newspaper had been contacted by a married couple who'd recently travelled on a Südringerbahn train and noticed that those they assumed to be foreigners were not having their tickets checked, while German commuters were still scrutinised. Yeah, well, there you go. That's going to create a lot of resentment. And those German people are going to be speaking to their family and friends. And word's going to travel. That's just going to create even more resentment in the country. And resentment, it travels like wildfire. And the biggest problem that you have in democracy is trust in the system, which is great when a democracy works, but that is democracy's most important resource, is the population trusting them. And once you burn up your capital of trust, that's it, it's gone. And then people will look elsewhere for answers. That's exactly how the mid-century Germans got into power. That is exactly how the Austrian painter got into power, because of rubbish like that was happening in the Weimar Republic. And if you aren't aware of what happened in the Weimar Republic, I heavily suggest you spend quite a lot of time reading about exactly what happened in the Weimar Republic and just how debauched and degenerate it got. And it wasn't just a case of people were racist and they decided to vote for the mustache man. There was a lot of very, very difficult times put on people in Germany, you know, and they did it reluctantly over multiple. It took multiple election cycles before he actually got into power as well, you know, as the quality of life of the average German just took a massive nosedive caused by weak leadership. Upon contacting the railway service provider, a spokesperson denied the allegation and claimed the tickets had probably been checked before the couple had boarded the train. However, upon further questioning, the rail company did concede that conductors had discretion to not demand to see valid tickets to ride should they consider the situation is at risk of escalation and they feel threatened or intimidated. Well, in that case, they should also be following it up with a call to the police at the next station to meet the train at the next station. You know, it's not like the person who's being threatening and intimidating can get anywhere. They've got two directions they can go. They can either go up the carriage or down the carriage. You know, there's only two sets of doors at each end of a carriage. It's not like they can make a great escape out of the train. What are they going to do? Open the window at 125 miles an hour and jump out? Yeah, good luck with that one. You know what I mean? This is so easily solved, beyond easy. Like this is like turning up to a shop, and the burglar's got his hand in the till. You know, and the police walk through the door, to come in to buy something, and the guy's there with his mask on and his swag bag and his hand in the till. You know, it's that obvious and simple to solve this. It winds me up. Actually, winds me up how simply this could be fixed. The railway company recently made headlines when its works councils complained in a letter to the Hungary's left-wing minister, President Bodo Romlo, about the behaviour of foreigners on public transport. An excerpt from the letter read, "State and federal politics repeatedly talk about integration and tolerance of towards migrants refugees. We ask you seriously, how can you expect citizens of this country to be open to the refugee policy being practised when they have to witness practically every day, and not just on public transport, such violence, brutality and absolute contempt and mockery of our laws and society, including its so-called, in quote marks, values? The demise of civilised travel is not only reserved for Germany. In neighbouring France, crime on public transport has skyrocketed in recent times, coinciding with a dramatic uptick in the number of suspects from a migrant background." And then it basically goes on just to give like facts and figures, and that's pretty much the article there. Well, I'll give you a couple of these figures right now. So in September last year, it was revealed 69% of violent robberies and other violent crimes, including sexual assaults on public transport in the Greater Paris region, were perpetrated by foreign nationals. It doesn't give a close look at the data showed Africans alone were responsible for 52% of such crimes, while only representing 3.2% of the population of France. Across the whole of France, 55% of suspects pertaining to offences on public transport are foreign nationals, the data indicated. And this is why people are getting upset across Europe. And this is why we are going to see the rise of the far right in Europe, because unfortunately the so-called centre-moderate parties are just weak. They are just weak mandarins who are only capable of keeping the engine ticking over. They're not able to innovate, they're not able to think outside the box, and they're certainly not able to make any kind of progress. They are just yes men and yes women. That's all they are, and they're only interested in forwarding their own careers by going for very, very short-sighted goals and basically saying what they think will win them the next election cycle. And I think in some cases, possibly they may be traitors as well. I think quite a few of them have a particular hatred towards home, hearth and family. Very, very strange. Very strange times to be alive. Anyway, I'll put the link to that article below, so if you want to read it yourself, you can do. It is quite interesting. I do think, obviously Germany is a different country, but I do think a lot of this bleeds over. These are problems faced across the whole of the West. And it's just a sign of the times, really, that we're living in. It's not good. And unless the main parties start really, really taking serious actions, we are going to end up with some really, really nasty people in power, unfortunately, because majority of people will feel like they have no other choice but to vote for the nasty parties instead. Sadly, history has proven that time and time and time again. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. If you've like that, enjoyed it, found it informative, interesting, any of that good stuff, please do comment below. Even if you don't agree with my views, I'm not a closed book. I am willing to change my opinion on things if your arguments are strong enough. I love interacting with people as well. It is my favourite part of this, to be honest with you, and it's a big part of why I do it. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks for watching, take care, and goodbye.